Hello, I'm Chris. This is Gross Models, and welcome to building the robot arm from Inventor. This is a 4 degrees of movement, I believe. A robot arm, which they claw, moves, rotates, all cool stuff. Everything you need is in the box except for one other thing. You need the hero board. Now, this is the one that I got with the 30 Days Lost in Space kit. Always worth doing that if you haven't done anything with this sort of stuff before. Pick up one of those. There is a link in the description. You can use my referral code where you can get access to all of this stuff, and I get a little bit of kickback from sending you that way. So you need the board and the cable. As well as that, you will need a screwdriver. But let's have a look and see what is in the kit, as well as the instructions on where to go to follow the instructions. The instructions of this are in fact in video form. So I'm not going to be able to do any picture-in-picture or anything like that. I will be sort of watching a bit and then building it for you here. So hopefully you can follow along from this. If not, go along there. I'll follow there, first video. In the kit we get 4 servos, which are the powered motors. If you don't know what servos are, you do get some other things as well. What we've got there. More stuff if you need bending parts, or indeed you can simulate all components to try them out in there. So that's the box. We don't need any more. Might need to put some stuff in it, might not. Now this is the new version of this robot arm kit. It comes with this add-on board, which has 2 thumbsticks on it, which they should just pop in place. Are they chiral? They are. They have a little flat side to them. So yes, it comes with thumbsticks to make controlling it very, very easy. Are they push button as well? I don't think they're push button. Actually, there feels like there might be a little push. I'm not sure. We'll figure that out, but I don't think that's used anyway. But this is used, obviously, to control the different things. Very close together, but all good stuff. We won't be doing anything with that quite yet, but that will basically, just using the pins supplied on there, it just fits straight into all of the connections on the hero board, and obviously the ones it uses. So I should keep that to one side. We do need to program the board as well, but we'll come to that after doing the building. The building is the fun bit. As I say, we've got 4 servos. I believe that they are all identical. They may come with different attachments, but I think they're all identical servos. We have the rest of it here, all flat pack, basically 3D printed. And I think I need a new blade in my knife because that didn't really cut it open very well. Right, so we've got bits, pieces, nuts, bolts and screws and things. We've got 4. Oh, that's not an important bit. 4 sprue type connections. All good stuff. Yeah, they're just going to be the loose bits that are popping out of holes and things. Yeah, there's one still in the middle of that hole there, so not worrying too much about that. Lots of different connections and arms and stuff. And the first thing that we need is one. So I'm going to pop that out of there. I assume that's going to be used as well at a later date. But we have got, goes on there. It just goes on slightly rotated as the base. We have that there. These don't have a coating on them, I don't think. I just popped a bit out of it, so it can't. It looks like it might have something over the top of it, but I don't think there is. I'll investigate that and figure out the next step as to what we've got to do. We've got bolts and screws and little plastic washers, and the first thing that we're going to be using, once I check the video again and see exactly where it's going to be used, is this sheet of 4 little plastic feet, self-adhesive plastic feet, which go on the corner of this board, but I don't know which side. So I'll check up on the next bit of the instructions and come back and show you it working. Well, not working, the next step of the building, the first step of the building. Right, yes, there are indeed plastic covering these. You can tell the difference between the shiny and the matte. So I will be getting the plastic off of it, but I won't be bothering showing you that because it's very, very tricky. You've just got to keep picking at it, or indeed scratching at it until you get a corner. Yeah. So I'm not going to bother boring you doing that. What I'll do when I come to use each piece, I'll sort out the parts for that next step. Get the parts ready, get them cleaned up, and then assemble. So this is the way that the feet go on. They just peel off and they stick on this side, just on the corners, like so. It gives it a nice base for this to stand up on, and indeed support for the, and some clearance, no doubt, when there's going to be screws and bolts and things holding this all together. So the four corners of that on there, like so, and that will then stand up flat when it's on something flat. Is that going to be the right size? Oh, look, it's almost exactly the right size for this middle piece. So there we have, we've got a start to it. So let me get the next few bits assembled, gathered, and then we'll see about putting them together. Right, the first part of the assembly we need to do is the base with the first servo. So we're going to be using that servo arm apparently, but first of all we're going to start by putting these four holes, or four screws, through these four with a nut on each. So nice and easy. Going through there. That should tighten down there pretty quick. Actually, the electric screwdriver is probably going to be the quickest option for this. It says don't put them in too securely. So don't do it very, very tight. Just so it fits on like so. I'll get all of these on and then we'll be done, ready for the next step. I can't really, I could cut away and not bother showing you doing this, but it's only going to take a minute anyway. I say it'll only take a minute when I get it lined up and on there first time. Very, very quickly. Is that going to be quicker? I think that might be just a bit quicker than using the electric screwdriver. That's right, I'm there. See, we're halfway there already. These are the longer 20mm screws that are going into this. There are only four of them in the pack, so nice and easy. You'll notice that on the right there, I've sorted out the screws and nuts and parts into different components to make it nice and easy for me to get what I need and do that. So last one going on there now, no problem. While I'm doing this, it gives me a chance to say if you like the content that I'm providing on the channel, do like it, leave a little comment, like and subscribe and all that. If you want to become a channel member, then that will help me out greatly as well. The links are in the description below. So there we have that. Now we're putting the first servo onto there. The cut outside is where the wire is going to be. So that needs to go on there thusly, like that, and then that will go onto there in with the wire coming down that side. Yes, this is closer to the center on there, and two of the 8mm screws are going to go through this and hold that in place. Now this larger square panel here, just checking, that's actually the wrong way round, so that's got to be, something's not right. This is chiral. The holes in this are not level. You need to get it the right way up as well as being the right way around. Didn't make that clear, so there's that. There's one thing I can point out for you, because these holes do not line up exactly. One is lower than the other, as you can see there. Yes, this large panel, I don't think it's actually got threads cut into it, but the screws do go up, do just tighten up into the holes there. So yeah, no nuts required on most of this part of the build. That one goes in there. That one should line up there as well. There, it's not fully down. That is holding that in place. So it doesn't have to go flush, it just has to go down. So that is holding that servo in place there. All good. Next up, this is then attaching into there, that way round. And again, these will just tighten into the top of that, just so they're flush, not tightening down all the way. Just holding that in place on all 4 of those corners. So there we have a start, and that is, as you can see, just a little bit sort of proud of the bottom there. That's probably going to come through the middle, but that will give us start as to the base. So next up, one of the sides. So the next few parts arranged, peeled and ready to go. Another servo we're going to be fitting. So this will go onto there again, cut out where the wire side is. This piece does seem to be symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which way up that one goes by the looks of it. That goes in there like so. The wire will need to go through the hole. No, because this fits from the other side. It fits on there like that. I believe I could be completely wrong. No, I'm pretty sure that I'm correct. That's how that should be. I will. Yep, it was at the beginning of the bit I just watched, but it is that way up. So that's how that goes. 2 of these screws, again, through the back, through the bigger hole, and tightening up into the larger panel there. Put it in just a little bit. Make sure the other side lines up as well. There we go. I go through there, and it's a slightly larger screwdriver for these. Make sure it all lines up as it should before tightening this up. Balance the sides. You're not going to get it flush tightened, but you're just going to get it done through there like that. So there we go, that's that bit. Next up, we are assembling the little arm onto the big arm like that, with a little screw going through there to hold that in place. Get that lined up into a hole. Not like that though. Get a little bit closer and see what we're doing. Hole is there. I'm going to go for the middle hole though, just to see that I can get it in where it needs to be. There you go. So that will lock that in place. And then that goes over the top of this. Now, this is the bit that you need to make sure you get on properly. It's that way up. All right, it's that way up. And the servo will rotate. So when it's fully rotated anti-clockwise, that needs to be on a slightly different position. Needs to be about there. It's going to go round to there and back left to there. And this is the screw that will hold that in place. He says, dropping the screw. By the end of this, I'll be an expert with all of this sort of stuff. This is obviously still the beginning, so I need to know and learn which screwdrivers to use for which bits. So there we have that now attached, and we'll rotate obviously when instructed to do so. There we go, another part completed. I'll put that aside, and I think we're going to do basically the same again on the other side. Well, we're not going to be the same again because it's different servo, but now the next side is next. Okay, before I do the other side, actually, I have changed this up. Made a mistake. I put the screws in the wrong way around. So the bigger screw is in fact going through the thing holding it together. The smaller one is the one that holds the servo onto the bar onto the servo. So we're doing much the same again, but obviously with the other side now. So we're going to put that on there, making sure the notch goes to the side with the wire. That then goes onto there like so. Just double checking that that is so. Yes, it is. Again, the screws go through plate, through the little plate into the big plate, and the big plate takes them as a thread, like so. Both of those in balance, make sure nothing's caught and twisted, and then we can tighten them both down nice and securely, like that. Then we need to again fix this to there. So this time I'm going to remember and use the correct screw from the beginning. The big one with the washer goes through there. The only difficulty in doing it this way around is when you're screwing it in, you get the big pointy bit coming out the other side. So if you're holding it with your finger, it'll hurt. So get it in a little bit, and then make sure your finger's out the way before you tighten it down. All of the way down, like so. So that's coming out there, so now I can make sure I hold it properly. Got to make sure this is tight down there because that's what holds everything together. Don't need bits wobbling when they don't have to. So that is there. Little half a turn more, I think. That would do that. Now these are plastic, so be wary of tightening and over tightening because you can cause problems with it. So try not to do that. So this again will go on there. Wow, I always want to put it on the wrong way up. And again, they say rotate it counterclockwise, anti-clockwise, and it should go on that way. Out there. There we go. So that's that. So that'll rotate all the way around there, back to there, and the little screw is what holds that onto there. Like that. Now we're not quite finished this section yet. We've got one more part to fit, this part, which fits onto there from the back with a different screw, one of the 6mm screws, which again goes through this piece and just tightens into the larger plate. And that is creating another hinged part there, which is going to join up somewhere, but where I know not yet. We'll figure it out in a moment. But first of all, I should be putting that aside, and we're going to have done the two sides, so we're going to join them up, I think, put it all in the middle. So, starting the middle section, we're going to be fitting that to there, using two of the servo type pointy screws. Through one side. Yum. You know you want to. One through there and one through the other side. I'll get these tightened up in between takes so you don't have to sit and watch me fumble with screws. there. Let's get that one. Gonna aim for that middle hole again. Same middle. There's lots of them. It's not really the middle one. It's just not the end one. I'll do that off camera and get that tightened up on there. Then these are attaching together with another one of these screws. It says to leave a gap in the middle of this one. Obviously something needs to move between these. I'm not sure how much of a gap to leave with it. So what I'll do is just tighten it down a little bit beyond there. So it's got the movement. It's probably too much, but that can always be tightened up momentarily. So that's that. Next up, we're going to be fixing the left side to the middle, but let me sort this out first and get everything prepared and watch the... Okay, here we have a couple of new parts to attach these other parts together. This is going on there, but not quite yet. We've got the back piece to go on there, and that's held in place with a nut and a screw. So the screw will go through there first, with the nut on that. And this is one of those clever little joints where the nut is held in place by the next part. So if I can get that on there a bit, like that. I'm actually going to deviate slightly from the build video and put the other one on the other side now as well, because I figure that would be much easier while I'm in the mode for doing this. I might as well do this. And then everything should line up nicely. So that one goes on that side as well. And that goes on there. The nut is held in that little bit there, while that goes in there. I've done it up a little bit too tight. Loosen that off. That in there. That in there. Good. Go through there. If I got it the wrong way up. I'm not doing the wrong side. It's definitely over there. Get a bit closer and see. Why is that not working there then? Let's just check this side is that side. That works better over there. Are they different either side? They are. That might be why I'm having trouble then. I might have been doing the wrong side. Or is that the wrong side? I can't tell now. I'm going to have to go back and check, because I thought this was fairly self-evident, but that is actually on one side or the other. So let me check on the instruction video and see which way round it's got to go. If I got it right, I'll carry on. If not, I'll change it over. Yep, I was right. It just wasn't quite lining up, but that's on there that way round. This is on there the same way round with that long slot on this side. So I'm going to get that tightened down a bit, not absolutely tight, but tight enough to hold it in place. Like that. And then we see this piece is the bottom, this is the side. So that is going on there that way round. That keying in there, like so. This fits in there and keys in both front, back and bottom, which is why everything still needs that little bit of give to it to get it all lined up. That's there. There yet, because that's come back out of there. That's there, that's there, that's there, and that is that. So let's get these two tightened up a bit more to hold everything in place. sort of should. Bit like that. That slipped out of alignment there a bit. There we go, that's better. And there we have the beginnings of the base. So we need to get the other side attached, which I'm pretty sure is the next part of the video. So one new part to install to make this all fit together, but I'm not quite happy with the way the instructions tell me to do this. They tell me to use one of these, I think it's the 12mm screws, but they're a little bit too long, or this isn't cut quite deeply enough. You may notice these parts that are the same are cut quite significantly deeper than that one. So I'm not going to use those screws. I'm going to use the slightly shorter version, which isn't, I would say isn't quite long enough, but it is. It just doesn't stick out the other end of the nut, but it holds into the nut okay by the looks of it. So I'm fairly confident that that's going to be all right. So that's going to go on there with the nut on there like so. It will. I had the nut a minute ago and then it just disappeared. So that will go on there. Get that on there just a little bit. Then this obviously lines up with the two holes and the nut in there. Or at least it should. Where that nut, where the bolt is slightly shorter, it makes lining it up a little bit more tricky. So I might actually have to get the nut in situ. So I'll put the nut in place. There, like that. Hold that while I get that there. Then we can get the screw through the hole into the nut that I've dropped again. Yeah, but it's going to go on there like that. So it's going to go almost all the way through the nut, which is more than enough to hold it in place. But it's better that than having the bolt being too long and causing a problem by pushing into the plastic on the other side. This is one of those bits where you need multiple hands and need to be not trying to keep it all on camera as well. So try it that way around. Then go through there and through the nut that I've got in my fingers. I can still feel it there. There we go. So that's that. And that will hold that in place there. So that's that. I need to do the same on the other side onto this piece where it fits onto this bar. Like the wires out of the way. That way around, of course. Like that. So that will be going onto there, but I'm not worrying about the connection of that yet. I'm worrying about getting this bit connected up first. Get the bars through the hole. Come on. Why is that not lining up through there? It is. There we go. It wasn't all okay, just wasn't quite okay. So there's that one again through there, and the nut slip into that little protective gap. Tweezers will help with that. Need to get it the right way round. It really isn't as difficult as I'm making it seem. I don't know why I'm making it seem so difficult, because it isn't. It just needs to go in there like that. Why is it? Just me. For some reason, I'm having a time with this one. There we go. That's that there. And then through the other side. The nut right way round, because it'll only fit one way round. It won't fit across the points. It only fits across the flats. Let's try that again, turning that round just a little bit. There you go. And then that one, but also just holding there, just a couple of turns in it. So far, so good. I'm going to do the same again, but with the longer screws. To hold this in there where it was. Same as the other side, but getting everything lined up. So again, we've got nut, go there, screw to go from the outside into the nut, go. And that plastic piece has got sufficient cutout for the screw to come out the other side of the nut and not cause problems. So that one there, same on that side, after getting everything lined up. So one more of these, screw ready to go, nut ready to go, wires out of the way. Slightly magnetized tweezers hold that, and the screwdriver will hold that. Almost like I know what I'm doing. Very nearly. So there we have that one on there as well. Side held in. That side will tighten down a little bit more. And there we have it. Arm successfully attached and servo controlled. Obviously just the one servo controlling that bit. The other one is controlling that, which isn't attached as yet, but will be very, very shortly. It's not quite straight. I'm not sure why that is as yet, but I'm pretty sure that's okay. We've just got a little bit of give to it. I should just go back and tighten a couple of things up. So far so good. That's that. I shall come back and do the second joint momentarily. Okay, the next bit is quite a long and complicated bit, so we'll see if I'm going to get through it in one. If not, I'll pause and come back and show you how it all goes together. So we've got lots of bits to install. First up, we are going to be putting this on there. No, we're not. We're going to put it down here. See? Started well. This is going through there. Now, it, according to the instructions, should be a 6mm screw, but both of these holes are too big for them to screw, so we're going to put the screw and a nut through there. Through there with a nut on this side, just to make it easy to do the screw up. Like that. So that gives us another point of articulation. That will be tight, but not too tight. This is obviously going to be working in tandem with that bit, sort of. This then goes through there to connect up those two bits, and that should go through with another 6mm. Although again, that hole's too big. But that hole isn't, so it will tighten into that bit. So we've got to go through here, into there. Get through that hole and then screw it into that piece. A bit like so. And another one, we'll do the same for that bit there. So now we have that as an articulated piece that sort of stays horizontal. Feel right, or does it feel like it's the wrong side? I am not certain. I'm going to double check if that is the correct way around. I think it is, but I also feel like that should be going the other way. I'm not sure. Yep, I did have that correct. That is as it should be by the looks of it. We need to then fix this to the base. So we'll do that simply by putting that on there and checking to see that it is central. So it goes round that far and goes round that far. So yeah, almost one click this way, I think. Might be exactly the same. That seems to be about there. So that with one of these little screws right down the center there. We'll hold that together. Oh, getting there. It's getting there. It's definitely getting there. So there we have that. Then we need to continue on with this bit. So this is going on to there and somewhere else. I need to double check my instructions. Right, next up, these bits. So an 8mm screw is going to go through there and through there into there. We'll tighten up onto that way round. That gives us those bits not joining up but connecting up. A little bit more. That's that. And then we need the washer, 6mm screw. No, another 8mm screw. Because it's got to go through 2 bits into the third. So this is going through this post. It's the one that was just connected down here. Through that. Through that. And into the long end of that. Now this feels like it's a stretch. It feels like that's a long way from there. So maybe that should be on the inside of that. I might move that across. Although it's connected. Yeah, I'm going to... No, you can't move that across because it needs to screw in from this side. Maybe put it across and change it for a bolt. I don't know. I'll play around with it and see what happens. This little connector piece goes through there. Holds those 2 bars together. I think it's that way round. I might have to change that. I shall check that and see. That's easy. Next is the last bit of this. This connects up to the top of that. Again, through there, screws into that. Giving us another bit that moves. I can see how this bit works. And then that would operate that bit, which will have to carry that with it, I'm sure. I'm not sure what that bit will then control. So, yeah. Let me get the next part of instructions and see where we go. Okay, now that bit I had the wrong way around. It's got the prongs facing backwards, as you can now just about see on there. And this one also I had attached from the outside. Apparently the inside is the way to go with that. So that is that completed so far. So yeah, let's progress on to the rest of it. We're running out of bits. I've only got one left on there. Still got a few of these washery things, but I don't know if I should have been using those as it goes on. Only a couple of bits on there for the other servo as well. So yeah, it's coming together. I'm liking it. Next up, the claw. The claw. Now, this is a slightly more complicated part of the build, but I'm sure we'll be able to manage it. We're putting the wire through there again, notch side for the wire. That is through there. This is the final servo, like that. That then goes over the top of it, getting it the right way round because there's a bigger and a smaller notch. This bit goes through the bigger notch, and that goes through the smaller notch. That goes over the top. And I'm not entirely certain what those bits are for. Obviously some attachment point and how the hinge works, but yeah. So we need some screws to hold that together. 8mm because they're longer, because we need the gap in the middle for the servo to fit through. We get those 4 attached through that. All in, and then worry about going back and tightening them up. Getting the impression I may have been using the wrong screws from some of this because I've got quite a lot of one type left. But we'll worry about that down the line. No point in worrying about it now. If need be, I can always salvage screws from elsewhere if I need some different ones. So there we have the servo trapped on its little plate. We need to attach this to that. Same as we've always been doing. It sort of fits through a little bit. And then the big pointy screw will go through and lock it in place. Like so. That's not going anywhere. Actually, it still is a little bit. So let's tighten that up. Go. Now that's not going anywhere. So that then needs to attach to the top of this. And need to check to see where the rotation is. That's all the way around that way. Right about there. No, a little bit further around than that. We'll make that about halfway. There you go. Is it that way or is it the other way? Oh, decisions. I think that's the other side. I think that needs to go that way. Because that's where things need to hinge and pivot. So we've got that on there. Right, we've got this to attach to there. From the underside, I'm going to use a 6mm screw for at last. There. One of these holes on this bit is bigger than the other, and one is smaller than the other. Get it through that one, so it's loose fit through the first little bit, and then tighten on there. Okay. This then goes on there, with the washer holding that in place as well, and that holding everything together. So we need another longer screw for that, and this is all going to attach from the back. I think yes, because that's actually both of those are tightening screws. I don't know. I'll go from the top because that feels easier to do. We get that through there. Try and get it straight. Go. That hole in just a little bit. want that to be so very tight. Not happy, is that right? Because that's definitely a threaded hole in there as well, isn't it? I say threaded. They're not actually threaded. None of these holes are actually threaded. They are just smaller. So you're cutting a little thread in it. That's actually a tighter fit through there, a looser fit through there. So I'm happier with that. Actually, no, I'm lying. I'm making things up. This doesn't attach to there at all. This attaches to there. Right, so smaller screw. This goes through there into there. The one screw hole through that. So that's that on there. Then this bit will go on there. I'm going to put a spacer. Actually, no, I don't need a spacer through that. Actually, yeah, I do need a spacer through that. But also, again, that is also a threaded hole, or a smaller hole. I think. Come on. You know you want to. Try a smaller screw just to be sure. Just the one of them though. A bit easier to cope with these smaller screws. A little bit though. Seems like a very small hole in that. Right, let's come back to that in a moment. Let's first of all lock this in place. I'm fairly happy that that's in the right positioning for that. So this will attach to that, which will control the opening and closing of that with that moving just a little bit. So let's try that through there again. Oh, that goes through there without any trouble. Only a little bit of trouble, should we say. Yeah, I'm not overly sure that that is correct. But let's see. I'm going to put the other side on, see how that goes together, see how it all fits and works. Possibly without that spacer. These obviously gear together. That is a normal size hole on that, so that is a hole that's going to be threaded. We'll go in there like that. So far so good. That's that. So as one opens, the other one closes and opens as well, as you'd expect a claw to work. So that's okay. So I just need to get that attached to there. It's feeling very tight. But as with all screw threads, the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I shall persevere. I shall put this in and out of there a couple of times till that thread wears in just a bit. And then we'll be good to go. Fairly happy with that now. That's a lot smoother. So if I can get that lined up with that, I don't know exactly where in the positioning this needs to be. But I'm sure it will all come through and work properly in the end. That I need to tighten that up a little bit, but just to check. Moves. Seems quite convoluted, but I'm sure it will work. Not 100% convinced it'll work. I'll double check to make sure that's okay. But then, assuming it is, we'll go on and attach it to the claw, to the body, the claw. Okay, I had a bit the wrong way around. The main plate was backwards because the attachment point here was on the other side. So I've taken it apart, I've reassembled it, I've loosened these 2 screws there so it actually works much smoother as well. And they're not in danger of coming apart or undone or anything, and they still line up properly. So I'm happy with that. So now we get to attach it. So yeah, that's what these bits we put in the side are for. The screws will go through there, through here and through there. So that's going to go through that bit. And then with it that way up, that screw will go into the middle bit there. So what I am going to do is make sure I can get it lined up and it all fits as it should. I'm going to see about getting these screws in there a couple of times first, because that, yeah, those plates are a little bit close. So it will fit, but it's just going to take a little bit of wrangling on both sides by the looks of it. So yeah, I shall get that done off camera. I'll get this attached, and then obviously one washer between that and the attachment point here, and we'll be good to go. That will be basically attached. I'll get that done and come back and show you it built. So there we have it. The robot arm assembled and almost assembled and complete. It turns. What else happens? It goes forward and back. That's about as forward as it goes. It goes backwards to there. And the arm goes up and down. So, yeah, and obviously the claw will open and close. One more thing to assemble. We need to fit the hero board. Obviously, you don't need to fit the hero board, but you do. It's going to look much nicer with it assembled. This is what these 4 little spacer legs are for. So we shall use 4 6mm screws and the 4 little spacer legs. Hold this together. They will go onto the bottom there, on the 4 cornerish on that one, and the other 2 on the other one, and then that will mount onto the holes there, like so, ready for the joystick to be plugged into the top. So I'm assuming we'll plug these into here in a specific order. They are just labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So yeah, I'll get this assembled onto there and then figure out how the libraries are going to work and get the coding side of things done. So that's the build side done, and I shall see you very shortly for the next. Okay, before we get to the coding and things like that, I had 3 bits left over from the sprues, and I think I'm going to be putting them in. Some of these are not quite lined up very well, and it doesn't quite work. I've plugged it in, I've wired it up. The left and right works fine. Say fine. It's a little bit glitchy, a little bit jumpy, but it's okay. The claw works fine. It didn't initially, but I've adjusted it and tidied it up. But the other 2 bits sort of try and work, but I can feel them. It's just too much strain and things are not quite as they should be. So what I am going to do is unplug it from the computer again. I'm going to go back through all of the joints, make sure I can get them all adjusted and working as smooth as possible. This is, let's say, really nice and smooth, which is why it works really well. The rest of it, not so much. So I'm going to put in the washers in a couple of places that feel like they need them. I might adjust the lineup of some of these bits like that. This bit feels nice and smooth, but for some reason it's not able to do it under power. So I'm going to tidy it up. I'm going to put in a couple of the washers, as I mentioned, and we'll see if I can get it to work. If I can, I'll show you the programming and that behind it anyway. If I can't, I'll still show you. But yeah, let me see what I can do to make this work nicer. Well, as it turns out, I didn't use any of the washers. I did adjust a couple of things and a couple of the home positions for the servos, and now it works. We've got turning. Seems to be a little bit glitchy sometimes. It's almost like it has a little fit. It sort of panics a little bit. Forwards and backwards works. Claw, open and closing obviously works as before. And the up and down. You can't really see very well from above. It does indeed work. So let's I don't know, we'll get it to grab something. Not sure how tight the grabbing actually is. Fairly tight. Like that. It might not keep hold of it while I'm moving it, but we can pick it up. It struggles with weight. You turn it around. You can go forwards. Actually, I'll go where you can see it. There we go. Go around there. Take it down. In, down. And drop. That way, drop. So, robot arm. I shall bring up the coding and we'll have a look at that and I'll see if I can make sense of it. I haven't actually looked at it myself. I just copied it and pasted it in. So let's have a look at the code and we'll see if I can figure out. Right. So looking at the code, we've got servo H is included in the library. I understand that because we're using servos. Makes sense to me. We're setting up some what's constant unsigned integers. Left horizontal, left joystick vertical, and right horizontal and vertical. So you can program it in whichever way you like to do whatever you want. So this would obviously do the left and right on that, and the vertical controls the forwards and backwards, which makes sense to me. That's how I would probably do it. And this is the claw. You want it the other way? Would I prefer to have it opening to the left and closing to the right? Maybe. I'm sure we could switch around things to do that. There are indeed joystick buttons. They're not programmed to do anything by the looks of it, but they are programmed in there as left joystick button and right joystick button. Servo objects, base, horizontal, vertical, and claw. Just calling the things, and setting up the servo pins and the joystick pins. Yep, I understand that. Servos, right, this is probably, I don't know what the numbers are. Are they setting up the base position for it when it turns on? Or is that just programming how far it will go? Left joystick, why has it got 3 numbers? Joystick read, right, it's increasing +1 and gives you values for up and down. I wonder why they're very, very different. Return 0 if no movement. Okay, so it's just feeding out numbers when you push it one way. So yeah, this is all meaning nothing to me, but feel free, leave a like, leave a comment and let me know anything about it. I know it's got some, it does have some remarks in there. Move in indicated direction and less move would go outside of min-max range. So you know it only goes as far as it goes. +1 and -1. You could probably, I don't know, you could change that to a larger number, certainly, so it goes in bigger steps, but you don't really need it to go any bigger steps. And the delay of 50 milliseconds between looping around it. So basically, it's doing that. It's printing in the serial monitor what you're doing as well. So useful for figuring things out, saying what that is, what it's changing to. There we go. That's as far as it goes. So it reads back as 180 and minus for going that way. It's sort of backwards, isn't it? But the direction is correct. And obviously tells you 0, 1, 2 up and down on that one, and 3. It doesn't print if the button's pressed. I believe that is the button, but it's not printing anything out from that, which is fine because we're not using that. That's okay. That's probably going to be the other pins on there as well anyway. But that is the entirety of the code. There's not much to it. I don't understand most of it, but basically it's reading from the joysticks and then outputting to the pins there, and that is what makes the servos work. So yeah, all in all, a fun one-day build. It has actually been 1 day that it's taken me to do this, on and off. It will probably wear in a little bit. The claw is the nicest bit, the nicest action. The rest of it works. I think I could probably get the positions of that a little bit further out, but you can't have it go too far out. I don't know, maybe that is about right. And the other bits, again, a little bit jerky, but adjusting some of the contacts, the positions would help with some of that. It feels a little bit loose, some of it, where that you can see it sort of twisting the entire chassis a little bit. But if I tighten anything else up, then it all gets a little bit too tight. So yeah, as a fun build, it's good. Robotics, I understand now the levers and things involved in it, and it's just all been an interesting build. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it along with me. If you have, let me know. If you haven't, let me know as well, but I'm sure you have. It's been fun. So thank you very much for joining me on this. If you do want to buy your own, pop along. Use my referral link if you'd please, and pop along and pick one up. They're not expensive. You do need to have a board or get a board for it, which again you can get through the link as well. But hopefully it's given you a little idea and things you can use it for. Not necessarily as it stands, but why not? Once it's all programmed and connected on the board, you could program the board to do things autonomously. You can have other sensors going into it to do other things, and you know, it doesn't have to be joystick controlled. Although that is pretty much fun. I'm not sure about that though. I think it's sort of trapped halfway between settings. So it sort of thinks, is it there or is it there? And it doesn't quite know. Not sure. That might be a software issue. It might be a hardware issue. But all in all, I'm very happy with it. Thank you very much for watching. I'm waffling now because I'm ready to finish. Thank you very much. Stay safe, and I shall see you for other projects in the future. I haven't got any other of these planned, but I'm sure I'll find something. There is very soon going to be launching the Lost in Space 2, the Adventure Kit 2, Day 0. So I'm sure you'll join me for that. So thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.